Good afternoon, friends. Myself, Sainath Lambade, and we are going to discuss in this lecture about the hindbrain. As we have discussed in the last lecture about the midbrain of the chapter control and coordination. This is also part of the control and coordination. Now we are going to discuss about the hindbrain or hindbrain. The another name from this hindbrain, that is a rhombencephalon, that is called as a rhombencephalon, and this is the posterior region of the brain called as a hindbrain. This hindbrain is the last part or posterior region of the brain. This hindbrain has been actually divided into two parts, that is metencephalon and myelencephalon. Under the metencephalon, there comes pons, varolli, and cerebellum. Pons, varolli, and cerebellum are the examples of metencephalon, and myelencephalon, that is myelencephalon, that is comes under the myelencephalon medulla oblongata. That comes medulla oblongata. The pons varolli appears as a rounded bulge, that arise like a rounded bulge on the underside of the brain stem. Underside of the brain stem. As you want to know, the brain stem consists of what? This brain stem consists of midbrain, pons varolli, and medulla oblongata. All these three forms the stem of the brain. That forms a stem of the brain, and we'll see that a cross band of nerve fibers connecting cerebrum, cerebral lobes, medulla oblongata, and spinal cord, and it also contains several nuclei. They also contain several nuclei. A cross band of nerve fiber that will connect the cerebrum, cerebral lobes, medulla oblongata, and spinal cord. These nerve fibers helps in the connection of all these parts of the brain, and as they are having the presence of several nuclei. Nuclei means a group of neuronal cells. A group of neuronal cells, as we have discussed in the last lecture of the cerebrum also. So this pons varolli, actually this pons varolli are a rounded bulge. You see this pons varolli in the red diagram. I have given the color red here. That is, first you are seeing the cerebrum. Cerebrums are divided into two cerebral hemisphere. Then followed by the cerebrum, there is having the presence of diencephalon. Followed by the diencephalon, there is having the presence of midbrain, and followed by the midbrain, there is having the presence of pons varolli, and followed by this pons varolli, there is having the presence of medulla oblongata, and this medulla oblongata continues in the form of spinal cord. And back to this pons varolli, there is having the presence of cerebellum. There is having the presence of cerebellum. We are going to discuss after this lecture. In the next lecture, we are going to discuss about the cerebellum. So you see here in the pons varolli, in this pons varolli, you are seeing this uppermost region, that is a part of pons varolli, and followed to this pons varolli, there is having the presence of medulla oblongata. And see that there are the two main centers actually present in the pons varolli. This question arises many times in the CET as well as in the NEET also. Which are those two centers lies in the pons varolli that are called as a pneumotaxic center. That is a pneumotaxic center, and another one, that is a apneustic center. That is called as a apneustic center. And this pneumotaxic center is known as a switch button between the inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation means you are taking air inside. Inhalation, you know that for the inhalation and exhalation, that requires about 5 seconds. For inhalation it needs about 2 seconds, and to give out exhale the air, that requires about 0.3 seconds. So this is a pneumotaxic center plays a role of a switch button, and as you know there is having the presence, this is a part of medulla oblongata, and in medulla oblongata is having a presence of respiratory rhyme center, and this respiratory rhyme center is having the only capability to give the command to the diaphragm and external ribs to get a contract. When you inhale, that inhalation command is only given by the respiratory rhyme center, but it is not having a ability to stop that. That is given by the, to stop it, that is given by the this pneumotaxic center. And as you do for like a Ramdev Baba, they say that you have to inhale for a long time, you will breathe inside, that is carried out by the apneustic center. It gives a positive for the inhale for the long time, that is because of we can carry that long breath with the help of this apneustic center, that gives a positive feedback. For this I have written here plus, at that time only you can inhale for the longer time. If you inhale for more long time, that may burst your lungs also. So there should be, if you inhale followed by inhale, you have to exhale, that is carried out to stop that one, that is done by the pneumotaxic center, that is done by the pneumotaxic center. And we'll see that now cerebellum, as I said you that we are now going to discuss about the cerebellum. And cerebellum, that is a second largest part of the human brain. If anybody asks you what is the cerebellum, that is a second largest part of the brain and consists of two lateral hemisphere. As you see that like a cerebrum, they also have the presence of two cerebral hemisphere, and from this side when you will see that this cerebral hemisphere has been divided by, there is a like a central worm like that division has been carried out. I have especially have given the arrow here. Now you can see that these are the two cerebral hemisphere and they are separated by this wormis, and in this two cerebral hemisphere there is having the presence of gray matter, and in that gray matter there is some having the presence of white matter. In that gray matter has been spread out, that is called as a, the in gray matter white matter has been spread, that forms a, like a tree like structure, and that is called as a arbor vitae, that is called as a arbor vitae. In the gray matter some white matter has been spread and it has a formed the structure like a tree, that is called as a arbor vitae. This arbor vitae is also known as a tree of life, that is also called as a tree of life. Arbor means tree and vitae means life. So it is composed of the white matter within a thin layer of gray matter, as I told you now, the at the cortex region. The white matter intermixes with the gray matter. The white matter will get mixed with the gray matter and shows a tree-like pattern. That shows a tree-like pattern and will get form a arbor vitae. The surface of the cerebellum shows convolution. The surface area of the cerebellum shows a convolutions of gyri and sulci. As you know, this gyri and sulci we have discussed in the cerebrum. Gyri means upward projections. The projections are going like this. I will show you the upward projections, downward projections, upward projections, downward projections. These are called convolutions. These are called as a convolutions. This upward are called as upwards are called as a gyri, and downwards are called as a sulci. These are called as a sulci. So you have might be clear this one. A number of nuclei lie deeply. Number of nuclei means having the presence of neurons at that site, deeply lie within each lateral cerebellar, lateral or cerebellar hemisphere. In this cerebellar hemisphere deeply lie of the nuclei. These are also said as a halves. They are also called as a halves. This cerebellum has been divided into two halves, that is also called as a, these are called as a halves. Means this cerebrum has been divided into two halves, one and this one two. These are called as a halves also. So now we are on this point. Over a 30 million neuron lies in the cortex. Over a 30 million neuron lies in the cortex. Three pairs of the myelinated nerve bundle called as cerebellar peduncle connects cerebellum to the other parts of the CNS. So after that we'll see that last ending point about the now cerebellum. We'll see this cerebellum are having a presence of some important centers which maintain the equilibrium of the body posture. It will maintain the equilibrium of the body posture, means you have to stability in the body, equilibrium, and your posture of the body, to stand in the posture of the body, also help in the balancing of the body. As you know that the people who drunk very much, their cerebellum will not function, that will not give command to your brains, so that person will having the position to balance her body and he will fall anywhere. Orientation, it also gives help in the orientation. This orientation means to give some speech. Then moderation of voluntary movement is also help in the moderation of voluntary movements, whatever the voluntary movement of your body, leg, hand, that may be carried out by this cerebellum. Maintenance of muscle tone, to give the muscle tone, that is also carried out by the cerebellum. And followed by this, it is a regulatory center for the neuromuscular activities. Regulatory center for the neuromuscular activities and control the rapid activities like walking, running, and speaking. This is also carried out by the cerebellum. This regulatory of neuromuscular center lies in the cerebellum. If the question arises to you, all activities of cerebellum are involuntary, though may be though may involve learning in the early stages. The early stages learning, that is also carried out by the cerebellum. So thank you for this lecture.